Meghan McCain is best case scenario like a clock in that she's right like around twice a day. I mean, that's stretching things, but I think her read of what's going on with AOC and the Fight the Oligarchy tour is the rare instance in which she's willing to admit something that is accurate and true. And so she retweeted a Team AOC tweet, which is usually the beginning of a bad story. And she says she's going to run, and her message of economic populism is more powerful than people are giving her credit for. And that was it for that tweet, at least. I know that if I load her account right now, it'll say something terrible, but like, she just acknowledged, and there's examples of that populist message, actual. When I say populism, by the way, without doing this, I mean real populism, not the right-wing BS thing. Her actual populist message, and Meghan just acknowledged that, which I think is more than most right-wing commentators can do. And I think that she's right in that it will be very popular. It already is. Now, we have Democrats pushing back against AOC. They don't want to see the party go in that direction, even if that's what it takes for them to win elections. And as one example of that, we have Michigan Senator Elisa Slotkin, who had a really weird take on the AOC thing. She said, we need to stop attacking oligarchy and focus on losing our woke reputation. And the thing about that is, if you want the Democrats' woke reputation, rightly or wrongly, to be gotten rid of, is like rebranding the party as fighting against the oligarchy not like a great way to do that? Like that's nothing about that is woke. Like that's not, this Slotkin, what are you talking about? But anyway, she has more specific advice and I want your take on it. So she did a political interview and she said she is road testing a war plan to, quote, contain and defeat Donald Trump, acknowledging public perception of the party as, quote, weak and woke needs to change. She's urging Democrats to, quote, effing retake the flag with appeals to voters' sense of patriotism to adopt the, quote, goddamn alpha energy, which I just think is so hilarious that she's saying that. But anyway, to embrace an airing out of potential 2028 presidential candidates in a broadly contested primary, which is fine. I'm sure she thinks of herself as being one of those people for some reason. She said that Democrats should stop using the term oligarchy, a phrase she said doesn't resonate beyond coastal institutions, which I'm willing to have a conversation about that. And she said that she said just say that the party opposes, quote, kings, and to beat their weak and woke rap, they should channel the, quote, no bull s energy of the Lions Campbell, a wonderfully sappy guy with his players, but is also smart and tough and lovable. There's some of that. I think maybe there's something. I do think that changing the messaging from oligarchs to kings is not just a reframing of like words. That's from like the status quo to a guy. And that's not the same thing at all. Fighting against entrenched power and money that controls our system is different than fighting against Donald Trump. And I think AOC, if Elisa Slotkin would actually listen to her speech for 5 seconds, would know, does both of those things, and so does Bernie Sanders. So I don't know, a lot of this, I think, like she's swearing. I guess that makes her different than some prior status quo Democrats, but they always say stuff like this. This doesn't seem to be a new path. It seems like the path that Harris tried to take. I don't know. What do you think?
Okay, there's a lot in what she's saying that is fine and important and usable. But her central premise, as indicated by media, which might be cherry picking stuff, is utterly flawed. Let me flip the script. The reason, whenever you don't like the conversation that's being had, and Elisa Slotkin very obviously doesn't, she doesn't like that everybody's calling Democrats too woke. If you don't like that conversation, you need to change it. You don't need to keep having it. And Elisa Slotkin's proposal is for us to keep having the conversation and win that conversation. In politics, the more galaxy brain, alpha brain, smart move to have is to create winning conversations for yourself. That's it. You are dictating what people are talking about. Call it the Overton window, call it whatever you want. But by trying to win the woke conversation, you are losing. Period. I could give you as someone who studied realignment, politics, American politics, communication in American politics, like that's what my degree is in. That is the simplest way to summarize politics in general. And AOC is doing the right thing, the basic thing, the fundamental thing, by trying to change the conversation to a class-based one and not a culture war one. And that is the reason, I'll go further, why the Republicans have chosen to create the woke conversation is because when the Democrats have an economics rich versus poor conversation, the Democrats win.
Yeah.
Historically. Now, when it's about like who's better for the economy, that's different. But when it's corruption, when it's protecting working class Americans, when it's putting food on the table as opposed to having food taken off your table and turned into a side dish on the smorgasbord Asgard style feast table of the billionaire gods, like that's when Democrats win, period.
I like it.
But I'm with her on changing oligarchs. I think oligarchs no one gets that. No one gets populism. No one knows what that means.
Sure.
Oligarch reinforces a narrative of ivory tower academic libs and mega rich, like the mob bosses. But that might be. But what you should do is just test all that stuff. But that framing that AOC is going for, you have people on the right or in the right wing brosphere that are like, yo, that makes sense to me.